Let the stories carry you into sleep. It's funny how betrayal doesn't always come like a storm. Sometimes it arrives with a smoothie blender humming in the background and a smirk that slices deeper than a knife. I've been with Miss Lien for 4 years. 4 birthdays, 4 Christmases, 4 years of planning a future I thought we both believed in. Looking back now, I realize it started unraveling long before that night. The signs had been there, subtle, scattered, almost respectful in how quietly they destroyed me. It began when she started working late more often. At first, I chalked it up to the pressure at Westcorp, her finance firm in downtown Austin. Then came the new perfume, the high heels she'd never worn before, a silk dress I didn't recognize hanging in our closet like an accusation. And suddenly her phone became sacred. She never left it on the table, never let it charge out of reach. I'm not the jealous type, never have been. I've always trusted with both eyes open, naive, maybe, but honest. But there was a weight I couldn't explain, like I was slowly being erased from my own life. Then came the message. I was folding laundry in the living room when her phone lit up on the coffee table. Just a quick preview. Miss you already. Last night was... from someone saved as James W. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't scream or spy or spiral. I just sat there for a minute holding one of her cardigans in my hand, wondering when exactly I stopped recognizing the woman who wore it. When she got home, she was humming. She always hummed when she was hiding something. She walked into the kitchen, dumped chia seeds into a blender, and blended like nothing had changed. I leaned against the doorframe. My voice came out calm. "Who's James W.?" She turned off the blender. The silence that followed was surgical. Her shoulders stiffened for a second. Then she turned around slowly, lifted her glass and smiled. Not a warm smile, not regret. This smile was cold, polished, victorious. "I was wondering when you'd finally figure it out," she said. I stared. "James is my boss," she added. "And yes, we've been sleeping together for the past 2 months." She said it like she was ordering coffee. No shame, no apology, no flicker of human hesitation. Then she looked me dead in the eyes. I needed a real man. The words weren't loud, but they hit like a brick through stained glass. "A man who knows what he wants," she continued. "Not someone who spends his weekends playing video games with Ryan and watching cartoons." It wasn't just betrayal, it was contempt. 4 years reduced to a punchline. Somewhere behind the nausea, something else stirred in me. Not anger, not heartbreak. Clarity. Cold, sharp, liberating clarity. "Does Amanda know?" I asked, naming the mutual friend who introduced us. Miss Lien laughed. "Amanda's known for weeks. So has Ryan. Most of our friends understand. James can offer me a future. You couldn't even split the bills without acting like it was some grand gesture. For the record, we split everything 50-50. Rent, utilities, even groceries. $300-200 a month between us. Her idea." I reached for my phone and opened our group chat. Me. "So you all knew?" Ryan replied in less than a minute. "Bro, you're great, but she deserves someone more established. Don't take it personal." Amanda chimed in seconds later. "We didn't want to hurt you. Maybe this is the wake-up call you need." That's when I understood. It hadn't just been a relationship falling apart. It was a whole circle burning behind my back. I looked up. Miss Lien was sipping her smoothie like it was champagne. She was waiting for me to explode, to break a plate, to cry, to beg. Instead, I smiled. Not a bitter smile. A real one, the kind that only comes after everything inside you snaps and rebuilds in silence. I walked to our bedroom, grabbed my go bag, the one I always kept packed for spontaneous weekend road trips, and took my laptop, my passport, and my keys. When I passed the kitchen again, she was still standing there, a flicker of uncertainty cracking her armor. "Where are you going?" she asked.
Out, I said. And don't worry, Lean, keep the apartment. I'm sure James can help with the rent. I didn't look back. I didn't need to.
But when I got into my car and turned the key, my phone lit up. 32 missed calls, and I hadn't even left the city yet.
I used to believe betrayal was rare, a crack in the glass. But that night, I learned the truth. Sometimes the whole mirror is already shattered, and you're the only one standing in the broken reflection, thinking it's still whole.
When I stepped outside with my bag, the sky over Austin was a dull grey, thick with humidity, like even the weather refused to be clear with me. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't even drive anywhere special. I just drove. I turned my phone off at the first red light. Not out of strength, out of survival, because if I saw even one more message that made me question my own worth, I might have turned the wheel straight into the river. But the silence didn't last. By the next morning, I had 32 missed calls. A few from Amanda, one from Ryan. The rest, Miss Lien. Of course. I didn't pick up. Not yet. Not while I still heard her voice echoing in my head.
I needed a real man.
What haunted me more wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. The calm, the smugness, like she'd rehearsed it for weeks.
And maybe she had.
I checked our group chat again, hoping maybe, just maybe, someone had followed up, clarified, apologized.
Nope. Instead, I saw something worse.
Amanda had posted a selfie the night before. A glass of wine in hand, smiling. Caption: Celebrating new beginnings. Self-love leads to truth wins.
1 like from Ryan.
2 from people I thought were my friends. They didn't just know, they were rooting for her.
I should have been furious. But all I felt was empty. Like the part of me that believed in loyalty had quietly packed its own bags and slipped out the back door while I wasn't looking.
I checked my bank account. Miss Lien had already transferred her half of the monthly rent, when $600, with a note that said, "Final payment. Please remove me from the lease. L." Efficient, cold, professional, almost like I'd been a lease agreement the whole time. I drove aimlessly for hours that day, ended up at a 24-hour diner just outside Round Rock, the kind of place where the booths are cracked and the waitress calls everyone Hon. I sat in the corner with a cup of black coffee watching couples walk in and out, laughing, holding hands. And for the first time in 4 years, I wondered if everything I had built with her, every trip, every argument we resolved, every plan for the future, had just been training wheels for James Westwood. The man who knew what he wanted.
A man who, by the way, was already married.
I should have connected the dots earlier. The way Lien always lit up when she mentioned late meetings. How she started dressing more like someone headed to a gala than a team huddle. The perfume I didn't recognize, the one that lingered even when she wasn't home. I took out my phone and finally opened her message thread. "We need to talk. You're overreacting. You embarrassed yourself. Don't burn everything just because you feel small." Small. That word did something to me, more than her affair, more than their betrayal. Because I hadn't felt small before all this, not when I planned our weekend trips, not when I stayed up till 2 a.m. helping her practice her quarterly presentations, not when I split every damn bill just to prove we were equals. But now? Now I was invisible to the people I thought would fight for me. I got up from the diner booth and left without finishing my coffee. There was no going back, no fixing anything, no long talk that would make this make sense. But there was one thing I needed to know. Was this just a moment of weakness for Miss Lien?
Or had the whole relationship been a placeholder?
I parked outside the apartment and waited in my car. Lights were off. Her car was gone. But a figure was standing by the dumpster out back.
I squinted. Ryan.
He was smoking, pacing, talking on the phone. I couldn't hear his words, but I didn't need to. He was laughing.
And the laugh?
It wasn't nervous. It was triumphant.
I started recording from the dash cam.
Because if he said what I thought he might say next, I'd finally have proof that this wasn't just betrayal, it was a setup. It wasn't just the cheating that broke me. It was the rewrite of our story, done without my consent. If part 1 was betrayal and part 2 was abandonment, then this was the part where I realized they weren't just done with me, they were rewriting who I was. I turned my phone back on 2 days after I left. I was sitting on a thin motel mattress at the Sunlight Inn, just outside Austin, staring at the popcorn ceiling and wondering how my life got this far off script. 32 missed calls, 47 unread messages. Most were from Miss Lynn, a few from Ryan, one from Amanda, and then a handful from numbers I didn't recognize. But that wasn't what got me. It was the explosion waiting for me on social media. I opened Instagram first, like an idiot. I didn't expect peace, I just didn't expect war. Miss Lynn had been busy, very busy. Her story posts were a carefully arranged slideshow of distorted truths, screenshots of old texts taken out of context, videos of her crying, edited just right, long captions accusing me of being emotionally manipulative, jealous, and controlling. But the worst part? People were believing her. Each post had hundreds of supportive comments. "You're so brave for speaking out. He didn't deserve you. Glad you found someone who treats you right." The photo that really got me. It was one she took from our old living room, same couch, same coffee table I built with my own hands. She wrote, "Healing in the place I was once hurt."
As if I was the danger.
I sat there, stunned. Not by her lies, I expected that, but by how easy it was for people to accept them. Because here's the thing about being the quiet one. When someone paints you as the villain, you don't have a defense team. You just have your silence, and it starts to feel like guilt. Then came the video. A shaky selfie clip, tears in her eyes, voice trembling. I tried to make it work, but I wasn't safe. He tracked my spending, monitored my calls, made me split everything 50-50 while he hoarded money. I finally stood up for myself.
And again, people cheered.
Never mind that she insisted on the split bills. Never mind that she made more than me. Never mind the 4 years of equal partnership she now called abuse. I closed the app and stared at the wall, trying not to put my fist through it. That's when I got the text from Samantha, a co-worker I barely knew but always respected. "Hey, you might want to check your email. Something's going around the office." Heart pounding, I logged into my work email. There it was, a mass message from HR. Subject line, commitment to a safe workplace environment. No names, no accusations, just vague language about concerning interpersonal behavior and a reminder to report any situations affecting team morale. The timing wasn't subtle. And suddenly it wasn't just my relationship that was unraveling, it was my reputation. I felt like I was being erased, rewritten, recast as the threat in someone else's trauma narrative.
And still, I didn't post anything, I didn't comment, I didn't fight back.
Not because I was noble, but because I was tired, because I knew that defending yourself online feels a lot like screaming into a hurricane. So I left the motel, drove to the one place I thought might still feel normal, our old coffee shop.
Big mistake.
The barista, a guy who used to chat with me about sci-fi shows and local bands, looked at me like I'd spit in his drink, didn't smile, didn't say hi. Just slid the coffee across the counter and walked away. Later that night, I found out Lien had been going there almost every day, telling her survival story to anyone who'd listen. I was a ghost walking through the ashes of my own life, and no one had even asked for my side of the story. Until the next day. When I stopped by the storage unit to grab some winter clothes, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in months. Melissa, Lean's best friend, the the same Melissa who once toasted to our anniversary. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. We made awkward small talk for 10 seconds. Then she lowered her voice. "You need to be careful." I blinked. "What?" "James, he's not just her boss, his wife. She's connected, like, seriously connected. And Lien's telling her you're unstable, dangerous."
I just stared at her, dumbfounded.
"Why are you telling me this?" Melissa looked around nervously, then whispered, "Because this isn't the first time." And that's when she told me about the other guy, the one before me. The one who also dated Lien, the one who also got too close to James, the one who disappeared.
I never even knew his name.
But I was about to find out. You know that moment when the floor shifts under your feet, but no one else seems to notice? That's what Melissa's words did to me. Because this isn't the first time. The way she said it, quiet, fast, like she was afraid the air itself might repeat her, set something off in me I hadn't felt in weeks. Fear, yes, but also rage. Not the explosive kind, the cold kind, the kind that plans. We sat in her car with the windows rolled up, AC humming. She wouldn't go inside the storage unit until she finished talking. Her hands were shaking. "Before you," she said, "there was a guy named David Keller. Worked in marketing at Westcorp. Lien met him during one of those Friday happy hours." My stomach twisted.
He was sweet, Melissa continued. Quiet, a little awkward, but he really liked her. It started casual, then they started dating, and then... She trailed off, staring at the steering wheel.
"And then what?" I asked. "He vanished. Just like that. No goodbye, no post, deleted all his socials, quit his job. Nobody heard from him again. At first, people thought he moved for a new opportunity, but then rumours started that he'd snapped, that he'd gotten too clingy, that he'd been following Lien to her car. Sound familiar?" I clenched my jaw. "James Westwood?" I asked. Melissa nodded. They claimed he was obsessed, that he couldn't let go. Lien told everyone she was scared for her safety. HR believed her. So did her friends, including me. "And was it true?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Melissa looked up at me. I believed her then. But now I think they pushed him out. Just like they're trying to push you. How was it, the pattern?
Lien seduces, James follows. When the guy gets too close to the truth, they flip the script, make him the threat, erase him. Move on to the next.
And now?
I was the next.
I thanked Melissa, got her number, and drove straight back to the motel. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up researching every David Keller I could find, cross-referencing timelines, checking LinkedIn, company rosters, anything. At 4:36 a.m. I found him, David J. Keller, former digital strategist at Westcorp, employed until October 2021. Then nothing. His profile hadn't been updated in over 2 years, no photos, no posts, just a single endorsement left by someone named Samantha L. Great guy to work with, miss him around here. That was all I needed. I shot Samantha a message. "Hey, it's Quiet from accounting. I need to talk, privately. It's about Lien and Westwood."
No reply, not yet, but I knew she'd seen it.
By noon I had a call from my landlord. He sounded confused, concerned. "Hey, man, Lien just tried to take your name off the lease, said you moved out permanently. She even offered to sign a new agreement with Westwood."
I nearly dropped my phone.
"She told you I left for good?" "Yeah, but..." He hesitated. Something felt off, so I figured I'd call. My sister went through something like this years ago. Her ex tried to make her look unstable to take the house. "She's trying to wipe me out," I muttered. "Whatever this is," he said, "keep records, emails, calls, everything." I thanked him, and for the first time in weeks, someone was on my side. But then, just when I thought things couldn't get weirder, I got a message request on Instagram. From an account I didn't recognize. The profile picture, a woman in her 40s, elegant, jewelry, eyes like she didn't blink often. The message was short. We needed to talk. It's about my husband and your girlfriend. Coffee tomorrow morning. My treat. Victoria Westwood. My breath caught.
His wife.
She knew. She knew everything.
And she wasn't hiding behind lawyers or silence or corporate HR. She was coming to me. Direct.
I stared at the message for nearly an hour. Then I replied, "Where?" Her answer came seconds later. Black Oak Cafe, 9 a.m. Don't be late.
I didn't sleep that night either.
But not from fear. Because I realized something. If Leon had done this before, if James had done this before, then Victoria, she might have been waiting years for this moment. And tomorrow morning, she planned to light the match. Some meetings change your entire life. Others expose the truth you already knew, but were too afraid to admit. This was both. I got to Black Oak Cafe 15 minutes early, wearing the only clean button-down I had left in my duffel. I hadn't shaved, I hadn't slept. But I was wide awake, wired on adrenaline and revenge. At exactly 9 a.m. she walked in. Victoria Westwood, the kind of woman who didn't ask for power, she exhaled it. She was dressed in cream cashmere, pearl earrings, hair pulled back into something sleek and silent. Every eye in the cafe turned, but she didn't acknowledge them. Just walked straight toward my table like she'd choreographed the moment months ago. "Mr. Quiet," she said. Not hello, not nice to meet you, just my name, like a case file she'd memorized. "Mrs. Westwood," I replied, standing instinctively. She sat across from me, placed her designer handbag neatly beside her, and folded her hands. A polite smile, but her eyes, cold calculation.
"Thank you for meeting," she said. "You've been dragged into something much bigger than you realize." I leaned forward. "I'm listening."
Victoria glanced around, then slid her phone onto the table, screen facing up. With a quick tap, she played a recording.
At first, I didn't recognize the voices. Then I did. Leon James.
Her laugh, his voice, muffled but clear. "If he makes a scene, we'll just say he followed you, say he showed up at your office, that he screamed in front of your co-workers. He's emotional. It'll be believable." Then James. "We've done this before. Just stay consistent. You know the drill."
I felt the blood drain from my face.
Victoria locked eyes with me. "I've been documenting my husband's behavior for over a year. Yours is the fourth name." "The fourth?" I asked, barely breathing. "David Keller. You already know his story. Before him, Eric Stone, then Luis Navarro. Same exact pattern. James sleeps with them, Lien plays the victim, and one by one, they're professionally destroyed." My hands clenched under the table. "They always targeted quiet men," she continued. "Men who wouldn't fight back, men who wouldn't smear them publicly. That's why it worked for so long." "But why tell me?" I asked. "Well, why now?" Her answer was fast, final.
"Because I'm done watching from the sidelines."
Then she pulled a thin leather folder from her bag and set it between us.
Inside, email logs.
Expense reports. Messages between James and Lien.
Photos.
A screenshot of a payment Lien received days after David resigned. Security footage of James and Lien leaving the West Corp garage together at midnight, hand in hand. My heart pounded harder with every page. "You were never the problem," she said. "You were the next target."
I leaned back, the weight of it all pressing down like a collapsing ceiling.
"Why hasn't anyone stopped them?" I asked. She gave a bitter smile. "Because James is protected. Friends on the board, strategic donations, internal HR that turns the other cheek. But that changes now." She explained her plan. West Corp's annual company gala was just 3 days away. Every executive, department head, investor, all under one roof. Victoria would attend, armed with documents, names, dates. She needed one last piece. Me. I don't want revenge, she said. I want exposure, public, unavoidable, final.
I'm not a hero, I muttered.
No, she agreed. You're just the first one who didn't run. She handed me a second envelope.
Inside, a name?
Someone who used to work in HR, someone who'd been paid to stay silent, someone ready to talk if I reached out first. Victoria stood, no hugs, no goodbyes. Just one final line before she turned away. If you want to burn a system down, you start with a match they handed you. Then she was gone. I sat there another 30 minutes, staring out the window at the streets of Austin, wondering how many more people had been ruined like I almost was. Wondering how close I'd been to disappearing just like David, or Luis, or Eric.
And then my phone buzzed. Unknown number, no caller ID, no message.
But the voice on the other end, I recognized it immediately. It was James. And he wasn't calling to apologize, he was warning me. The call from James didn't last long, just long enough to make the message clear. You show up to that party, Quate, and things will get a lot worse for you. He hung up before I could respond. But I didn't need to, because the only thing worse than being lied about was staying silent while it happened. 3 nights later, I stood outside the Regent Tower Hotel in downtown Austin. The West Corp Gala buzzed behind the glass like a golden hive. Sharp suits, designer dresses, fake smiles clinking champagne. Victoria Westwood had told me, we're not crashing a party, we're correcting the narrative. Inside my jacket pocket was a thumb drive, emails, text threads, hidden camera footage, all curated and time-stamped. Victoria had left nothing to chance.
As I stepped through the doors, every part of me screamed to turn back. But when you've lost everything, fear loses its grip. All that's left is clarity.
I hadn't been seen at any company event in months, so when I entered the ballroom, heads turned like a domino effect. Some smiled awkwardly, others whispered behind cocktail glasses, but none louder than the voice behind me. You've got some nerve showing up here.
Amanda.
Dressed too tight, voice already slurred. She swayed toward me, glass in hand. After everything you put Leanne through, you're disgusting.
I didn't flinch, I just looked her dead in the eyes. Everything I put her through? That's interesting. Why don't you tell me more?
Before she could stammer a reply, another voice cut through the crowd. Samantha, my co-worker, the one who'd been quietly collecting evidence.
Actually, she said, stepping forward, I think we'd all like to hear the full story.
And then it began. The music faded, the projector on the wall flickered, a slideshow of company milestones glitched, replaced with screenshots, dated emails, photos, receipts. Leanne's texts bragging about how easily she could manipulate soft men. James's messages scheduling private strategy meetings after hours. Audio recordings of them laughing, calling David a forgettable exit. The room went dead. Then a gasp. Leanne was standing near the bar. Her face froze, mascara already beginning to smudge. She looked at James, but he had stepped back from her, trying to play it cool, as if he was as shocked as everyone else. And then Ryan entered the scene. He pushed through the crowd, pulling out his phone like a shield.
This is crazy. You're all falling for this fake drama.
Victoria emerged from the back like a queen reclaiming her court.
Elegant, controlled, furious. Oh, it's not fake, Ryan. Would you like to see the footage of your little loyalty meetings with James? The ones where you plan to record me?
Ryan's mouth opened, then closed. He was finished. But Leanne wasn't done. She stormed forward, eyes wild, voice shrieking.
You think you're so clever, Quit? You and that bitter old woman trying to ruin everything I've built. James loves me. We're building a future.
Victoria didn't flinch. She reached into her clutch and pulled out an envelope. That future, she said, sliding the paper onto a table, already terminated. Divorce papers. Filed, stamped, signed. The room went still again. James went pale, jaw tight. Whatever illusion he'd sold Leon, it died in that moment. She screamed, loud enough to echo across the ballroom. Security began moving. HR reps from the company started whispering among themselves. Cameras went up. Phones recorded. This wasn't gossip anymore. It was evidence. But the moment that broke me, the silence from the people who used to call themselves my friends. Not a single one of them looked at me. Not Ryan, not Amanda, not the senior execs who once high-fived me in hallways. They averted their eyes like I was radioactive. Like I reminded them of something they didn't want to admit, that they'd backed the wrong people. Victoria walked over and squeezed my arm.
I told you sometimes the best revenge is just showing up.
And with that she walked off, heels sharp on the marble.
I left before the night ended.
Didn't need applause, didn't want vindication. But as I reached the front doors, my phone buzzed again.
An unknown number. A voice on the line, older, shaky, urgent.
Mr. Quiet, my name is David Keller. I saw everything tonight. I think it's time we talk. Sometimes the people we think are gone forever just need one moment to step back into the light. I picked up the phone before the second ring ended. My throat tightened. Mr. Quiet, this is David Keller. I saw the footage from the gala. I wasn't sure you even existed until tonight. His voice was steady but weathered, like someone who had screamed into a void too long and finally found an echo. I drove to meet him 2 hours later at a gas station diner off Highway 71. The place was nothing. Blinking neon, sticky booths, lukewarm coffee. But David was waiting. And that alone made it sacred. He looked older than I expected, not in age and experience, like someone who'd aged 3 years for everyone he'd lived since the last time someone said his name aloud. He slid a manila envelope across the table before I even sat down.
Everything I kept, he said. I didn't know who to trust back then.
Inside, screenshots of Slack messages, bank transfer confirmations, emails between Lean and James discussing how to isolate him from the team, even a photo of a note Lean had left in his office accusing him of stalking. After that, David said, I was unofficially frozen out. No one said it, but every project vanished. I was told my role had evolved. HR opened a wellness inquiry. Then the rumors started.
And you just left? I asked, though I already knew the answer. I didn't leave, he said quietly. I disappeared. There's a difference.
He told me how he shut down all social media, moved to New Mexico, took freelance work under a different name, all just to avoid being the punchline of someone else's carefully crafted story. I told him what Victoria had planned next, how the fallout from the gala had barely begun. Lawsuits were being drafted, whistleblowers were surfacing. There were talks of a federal investigation into James's misuse of company funds. David leaned back and laughed once, not bitter, not relieved, just empty. All it took was one person not afraid to show up, he said. And then he handed me a flash drive. This part, he said, I kept off paper. It's the audio files, the ones Lean didn't know I had. He paused. There's one that still wakes me up sometimes.
I hesitated. What's on it?
He looked away. Her and James talking about what to do if I snapped, how to trigger a reaction they could document. They joked about pushing me far enough to cry in a meeting so they could claim I was mentally unstable.
My chest burned.
They were planning emotional entrapment, I muttered. They executed it, he corrected. Before we parted, he said something I wouldn't forget. The worst part wasn't what they did, it was how easy it was for people to believe them. I drove back to the motel in silence. Howard, the owner, was watching late-night TV in the front office. He looked up as I walked in. You all right? He asked.
Not even close, I said.
He nodded slowly. Sometimes that's when you're closest to done. I stayed up through the night listening to the audio files, every click, every breath, every word from Lean and James. Clear, undeniable. They'd done this with intent, with strategy, with full awareness of the lives they were burning to warm their egos. And somehow they were still standing.
For now.
The next morning, I opened my email to find something from Westcorp HR, a generic company-wide statement about rebuilding trust, corporate integrity, and steps toward internal transparency.
Not a single apology, no name, no accountability. But the biggest shock.
A message from Ryan. Subject line, "Can we talk?" He wrote,
I made mistakes. I got caught in the middle. I thought James would help my career. I didn't realize how far it had gone. I want to make it right.
He attached a video. Unedited footage from the gala and from his own phone. In it, James is clearly seen coaching Lean backstage before the event, her asking, "Do you think he'll show?" James replies, "If he does, let him burn himself. Just stay calm and cry. It's what they always do. Weak men always cry." I stared at the screen until my eyes stung. And for the first time, I wasn't angry.
I was done feeling anything. Because something inside me had shifted.
This wasn't about me anymore. It was about every name they buried before me.
And now I had the shovel.
Some people burn everything they touch, and then cry when they're left alone in the ashes. It had been 6 days since the gala.
4 since I met with David Keller.
And just 1 since I opened Ryan's video, the final nail in a coffin James and Lean had built together. It should have felt like closure. But closure doesn't knock on your motel door at 9:27 a.m. screaming. Howard, the owner of Sunlight Inn, called me first.
Oh, that girl you told me about? She's in the parking lot causing a scene.
I looked out the blinds and there she was. Miss Lean, sitting on the hood of my car like it still belonged to her. Makeup smudged, hair wild, clutching a manila envelope like it was life support.
I didn't rush outside. I made her wait.
When I finally stepped out, she stood up like I was the one interrupting her peace. "We need to talk," she snapped, holding up the envelope. "I have things that could bury everyone. James, Victoria, you." I didn't flinch. "Then why haven't you?" She hesitated. And that's when I saw it, not fear, not desperation.
Panic.
Her hands were shaking, the same hands that once typed lies into HR forms like they were to-do lists. "If I go down," she said, "you go down with me?" I almost laughed. "Lien, I'm already out. The only thing you're holding is a dead match." She shoved the envelope against my chest. Inside, screenshots, personal messages, printed photos, blackmail material, years of it, dirt on everyone, conversations taken out of context, personal moments twisted into weapons.
I thumbed through every page while she stared.
Then I looked up.
You collected all this in case you needed to nuke the world.
She didn't deny it. "It's insurance," she said, "because people turn and I don't trust anyone." "Good," I said. "Then you'll understand this part." I pulled out my phone and took a picture of every single page, right there, in front of her. She froze. "What the hell are you doing?" "Backing it up," I said calmly. "Just in case I ever need to remind you what self-destruction looks like." She reached for the envelope, but I handed it back to her, slowly. "You want to burn every bridge? Fine, but make sure you're not standing on one when it happens." And for the first time since all this started, she cracked. Lien looked at the envelope, then at me, then at the empty parking lot. And her voice, once so sharp, broke into something small. "You ruined everything." I stepped closer.
"No, you built a kingdom out of lies, and now the wind came."
She let out a scream and ripped the entire envelope apart, throwing papers into the air like shredded pride. Someone across the lot filmed it. I didn't stop them. Let the world see the real version of the girl who said I wasn't a real man. As she stormed off, mascara streaked down her face. I didn't feel pity.
I felt peace.
But peace doesn't last long in a war like this. Because just as I turned to head back inside, my phone buzzed with a new email. Subject: urgent legal notice. It was from West Corp's corporate counsel.
Not about me.
About James. The body of the email was short. Following recent disclosures, Mr. James Westwood has been suspended pending investigation. Additionally, several financial irregularities are now under federal review. But the final line stood out. We have reason to believe Mr. Westwood has accessed internal servers unauthorized and may be attempting to interfere with ongoing evidence gathering.
I read it again and again, because it wasn't just about the past anymore.
James wasn't falling quietly. He was still inside the system.
Still dangerous.
And someone on the inside thought he might be trying to erase everything. Or worse, shift the blame. I looked at my motel door, then at the phone, then at the files I'd saved.
And I realized
this wasn't the end of a story. It was the start of a cleanup.
And I might be next.
When people start to fall, they don't grab a rope. They reach for the nearest person to drag down with them. I spent the rest of that day backing up everything. 3 separate drives, 2 encrypted folders, 1 old-school printout stash locked in Howard's storage room under a different name. Because if James Westwood was inside West Corp's systems, then anything digital was vulnerable, including me. I didn't hear from Victoria. Not that day, not the next. Word was she had gone completely dark, her legal team handling the rest. She had already played her part, and frankly, she'd earned her silence. But I wasn't done. The morning after the legal notice came in, I received a DM from a burner Instagram account. No profile pic, no bio. They're going to make it look like you doctored the audio. Don't go home and don't go near your office. That was it.
No name, no threats, just a warning.
I sent it to Samantha. She called back within minutes. I heard the same thing. Words going around that IT flagged your name in the investigation queue. They're claiming you accessed internal files without clearance.
I almost laughed.
You mean the ones I was given by Victoria? The ones showing James altering company financials and falsifying performance reviews?
Yes, she said. But here's the problem. They're saying you edited them. Of course they were.
Why take accountability when you can paint the whistleblower as a hacker? That night, I stayed off the grid. No phone, no laptop, just a burner and a stack of handwritten notes I hadn't looked at since David Keller handed them to me. And tucked inside those notes, something I'd missed. A printed email.
Not from James.
From Ryan. Dated 5 months ago. Subject line: can we talk about your exit strategy? It wasn't addressed to David, it was sent to James, and Ryan had CC'd Lean. I reread it 10 times, then I called Samantha again.
Do you still have that video Ryan sent me?
Of course, why? Because I think he was in on more than just recording the gala. I think he helped frame David, and now he's trying to switch sides. It made sense. Ryan had always played the neutral card, the I was caught in the middle defense. But the timeline didn't lie. He was communicating directly with James long before any of this came to light.
I needed to confront him.
So I sent him a message. Let's meet. One time in public, you choose the place, but don't bring anyone. You owe me that much. He replied within 3 minutes. Fine, tomorrow, 4 p.m. Barton Springs Coffee. Don't be late. The next afternoon, I sat at the back of the cafe, facing the entrance. Ryan arrived 15 minutes late, looking like he hadn't slept since the gala. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, but the smirk still intact. You look rough, he said, sliding into the booth. So do you, I said. We didn't waste time. You were feeding James information, I said. And you helped coordinate David's takedown. The emails prove it. He didn't even blink.
Look, I was young, stupid. He promised me a promotion. I didn't know it would go that far.
You CC'd Lean on that email. You knew. He looked away.
What do you want from me?
The truth, on record. He laughed once, dry, bitter.
You think I'd survive if I turned on him now? You think you'll survive if you don't?
I slid my phone across the table, voice recorder already running. He looked at it, then at me.
You're serious?
I nodded. One chance, Ryan. Be the guy who stopped digging before the hole became your grave. He stared at the phone. Then he pressed stop and deleted the recording.
I'm not your redemption arc, Quit.
He stood up and walked out. And as he reached the door, he turned back.
Watch your back. James isn't done, and neither is Liane.
I sat in that booth long after he left, my reflection staring back from the blank screen of my phone.
And that's when I realized they weren't trying to win anymore.
They were just trying to survive, which made them far more dangerous.
And somewhere deep down,
I think part of me was starting to wonder if I'd survive this too. Thanks for listening. If this story helped you unwind, don't forget to like and subscribe channel Reddit Stories to Fall Asleep too. There's a new tale waiting for you every night, right here. Sleep well.